All right, what's going on, everyone? So, this is kind of a special episode of the pod. Basically, I didn't really have a guest this week on purpose because I really wanted to do something for the Super Bowl. But this isn't just like a game preview. I am going to talk about the game and about some gambling stuff, but there's a little bit of commentary on some things. And the reason I didn't have a guest was because I really either wanted to have multiple guests, like three or four, or just me and let the listener be kind of my guest and take some of these ideas and run with them and kind of you can comment on Spotify or YouTube, or just if you want to tell me what you think, you can message me. But I've been thinking a lot about the Super Bowl and kind of what it is culturally. And this episode's late, kind of on purpose, later than normal. First of all, because it's going to come out for the Super Bowl. But second of all, I was sick all week, so I'm very sorry. I was in bed pretty much Tuesday through Friday. So my apologies. I just was not feeling well at all this week. So as you can see, a little Philadelphia action I got going on, some TO. Uh, we have the Eagles and the Chiefs. I'm not a fan of either. I'm very indifferent. However, I do have a homie who is an Eagles fan. So for his sake and the three Pitt players on the team, I'm kind of going Philly. I think the Chiefs still might win because it's hard to bet against them, but Philly's got a hell of a team. And we'll get into that later. However, I wanted to talk about this because I'm a huge football fan, and a lot of my friends are. We have group chats for betting, for the games, and it's kind of unique because, we talk about basketball, we talk about hockey, we talk about baseball, soccer, whatever it is that we're betting on, MMA sometimes, stuff like that. And also, I'm a big wrestling guy. A lot of you guys probably know that. I went to the Royal Rumble last week. That was really exciting. But in football, it's kind of this weird cultural thing, for America at least. I know I might have a couple of friends across the pond or north of the border who are listening, and I appreciate you. But our football here is something that most people really like. Not everybody, but it's generational. It's like young folks, older folks, um, men and women, kids, the elderly. Young adults, whatever. It's across all races, religions, or lack thereof, cultures, whatever it is. It's very much a big American thing. I think that a lot of that has to do with the type of game it is. It's very math oriented. It's very every play matters. And if you watch your team, if you have a favorite team, you only have to watch once a week, usually on Sundays, usually at noon, unless you're the Steelers and they keep messing with your schedule. Sorry, but still mad about that. And the Super Bowl is one of the last things we still have that exists in kind of a monoculture type of thing. And monoculture in society, I'm not an expert on it, but when I was growing up, and I'm sure it was like this for a long time since the invention of radio and then later television and then the internet, but the internet kind of got us away from this. Monoculture is kind of this unified experience throughout culture. So like for me growing up in the 90s, early 2000s, everybody saw the same movies and knew the same songs that were on the radio or on MTV, or like knew stuff that was going on in the world. And of course, there's big world events, political events, things like that. And I'm not really going to go that direction because that's kind of one of the problems is the unique shared experiences we have as a culture are not very unique anymore. People kind of dive in their own direction. So a good example of this is like, everybody knows who Taylor Swift is. And I'm not a hater. I'm not really a big fan. I find her music to be, I'll say, unoffensive pop music. I'm not going to comment on it because that's a whole nother discussion and people have very harsh opinions, positive or negative. I don't really have much of it. I could dive into that later. But everybody knows who she is, right? And I went to a wrestling event at Lucas Oil Stadium, pro wrestling, which people know John Cena. They know, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Hulk Hogan, these big names over time. But unless you're a wrestling fan, you probably don't know most of the people on the card. And this event, now I know a lot of this has to do with things like the stage and seating and whatever, but it outsold the Taylor Swift concert that was at Lucas Oil at the same building a few months prior. Now, this isn't saying that it's better or worse, but what I'm saying is like people who like wrestling, like really like it, okay? And the people who don't like it, they don't really spend a lot of time hating on it. They just don't care. Like they don't pay attention. They have an idea of what it is in their mind and they go, okay, that's not for me. And they move on. And that's fine. That's kind of how everything is though. It's kind of like Spotify. You can listen to what you want and you could tailor it to your genre. I'm a huge music guy. You see, I'm kind of in my little studio here and I write music. I'm in different bands and I'm very in tune with what I like. I can't tell you what's on top 40. I can name a couple of artists probably because they're in commercials or like the one singer, Sabrina Carpenter, I think she was on the ad when I went to get a coffee at Dunkin' Donuts today. I was like, okay, I know that's a singer because I saw like a thing of the Grammys. I didn't watch the Grammys. I watched the Grammys once in 2009. That was because Blink got back together and I knew they were going to announce it then. And I'm not hating. It's just not my style, right? So it's like I could tailor my music to what I like. Movies is the same thing. Netflix. For me, I have like Netflix, Max, Hulu, um, Disney Plus. I mean, there's so many of them. I probably pay $100 in subscriptions every month. It's ridiculous, but you can watch what you want. So instead of watching what's on TV, which I can't really name a lot of current shows because I mostly just watch sports or wrestling shows. I can go watch The Sopranos or I can watch Seinfeld or whatever. And that's what I like. And I think that's how most people are. It's like, unless you're very, very like nondescript with like media, like music, you listen to the radio and then you have whatever type of streaming and you just are like, all right, I listen to what's on my mix and it's top 40 and that's fine. Same with TV, watch whatever's on. And we've kind of lost this like unique shared experience thing. And that's where the Super Bowl is going to come in. And I'm going to get to that. But it's a very strange thing. A lot of people I'm friends with who don't exist inside these certain pockets of like music or sports or like wrestling, for example, is a kind of its own subculture, or other things. They don't really have conversations with me about the stuff because they're not into it and they don't really have a lot of verbiage to even dive into those things. If I talk to somebody who's not into, like punk rock music or something like that about like Bad Religion or like newer stuff, whatever, that I'm listening to, they're not going to really be able to discuss that. And that's okay. But like when I was growing up, it would be like, hey, like, you watch TRL and Eminem is huge. And then Blink-182 is the next song. And then it's like Destiny's Child and then Nelly and then Korn and Limp Bizkit and Foo Fighters. And, there's hip hop and there's pop music, Britney Spears and NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, whatever was popular. And then bands like Blink-182. And then after that, they got New Found Glory and Good Charlotte and Sum 41 and Simple Plan and whatever, all these pop punk bands on there. And then there's like, Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park and Foo Fighters and Korn was, all these different bands. And the top singles, people knew them. Like I'd go to high school, middle school, high school, and people would be like, oh yeah, like, maybe I don't like go to Warped Tour and like listen to New Found Glory, but I know, My Friends Over You or All Downhill From Here, whatever it is. That's just kind of how things were. It's really interesting because now, like one of these bands, and it could be a younger band too. It could be like, Heart Attack Man or Tiny Moving Parts or whatever is going on now. And not a lot of people know them if they're not into that kind of subgenre. And it's really weird because it's good music. It's basically right up the middle pop rock music. We have all these names for them and I've gotten nerdy about that. But at the end of the day, it's just music. It's funny, it's weird. I think it's the same thing with movies. Like I'm not a big movie person, so like it takes me a while to see stuff like what was it, Barbenheimer, right? I didn't see the Barbie one until a few months ago, and I still haven't watched Oppenheimer, which I might even like even more than that, just because of the stuff I'm into. If you look at my bookshelf, but I think it's like I'm not a movie person. I like movies, but like I like movies that I watched growing up. I like comedies, and I like things that came out when I was a kid or young adult, whatever. I was in high school for a great boom in movies, Super Bad, Knocked Up, all those kind of Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Role Models, all that kind of stuff that was coming out was really funny. Goon, but like, and then prior to that, there's, American Pie was huge and like, I love Austin Powers and things like that. But people don't have those shared experiences. So I talk to people who are maybe like 7 or 8 years younger than me, which would put you in your mid-20s, and they're like, yeah, I've not seen any of that. And then same thing with people who are maybe on the opposite end of that, a little bit older than me. They've seen a lot of the stuff from when I was younger, but maybe not some of the stuff from when I was like 18, 19, 20. So you can see where we start getting away from this unified culture. And the reason I bring all that up is because the Super Bowl is one of the last remaining things that I think we truly have in that. Now, I find myself in a different end of that pool because I'm a big football fan and I watch obviously I watch every Steelers game, but I also have like the packages and I watch Red Zone, and I watch every NFL game that I can. So like I watch Red Zone, and then throughout, the noon through 3 o'clock, 3:30 slots, and then I'll watch the Monday night game if there's two, or the Sunday night game. I'll watch Monday night. If there's two Monday night, I watch both of them, usually flip back and forth. I could do two screens if it's two good games, but usually there's a shitty game on. I'm sorry, but like I'm not going to dedicate that much time to certain games. Thursday night when they move to Saturday, and I watch college football too, but like I find myself very invested in that. It's a good way to have fun, to make some money if you know what you're doing and if you're a little lucky. And generally speaking, it's just something I enjoy. A lot of people probably didn't watch a game all year and they're going to watch Super Bowl. They're going to go to a party. They're probably going to place a bet. They're going to drink a little bit. They're going to watch the commercials, enjoy the halftime show. And it's funny because I didn't realize, I don't know why it took me so long to realize this, but when I was a little bit younger than I am now, probably like in my early and mid 20s, people would like talk about the halftime show and the commercials with great discourse, either be all about it or be like, screw that. Like, that's stupid. Now, I kind of found myself in the pool of like not caring about the halftime show because most, like 9 out of 10 times, just an artist that I don't care about. And I kind of know a lot of it's backtracked because they have to. It's live TV. It's just the way it goes. Fine. And the commercials, again, that's kind of my bathroom break or like go get more food because, again, like I want to watch the game. Now, it's okay if you want to watch the other stuff. I'm not a hater, but like I would find people being really into one or the other. And I kind of realize this now coming to the surface. I'm like, oh, like the Super Bowl is an event. Like people care about it because it's something to care about. It's an event. It's something going on. This goes back to, back in the day, watching the ball drop, watching things like TRL or certain movies coming out. It's this monoculture experience. Now, I'm going to have that experience different than a lot of other people because I'm looking at, a lot of times I'm cheering for one of the teams in the Super Bowl, even if it's, I've been fortunate enough, the Steelers have been in 4 Super Bowls in my lifetime. I really don't remember the first one because I was like 3 years old or something, but I've gotten to see them play in 3 and win 2. But most of the time, I definitely have a dog in the fight. Now, again, I'll explain my thoughts on that later. I have the Eagles jersey hanging up. We'll talk about that when I get into the game preview, but at least my game preview. So this is not a professional thing, although that would be fun. But again, like people have this shared experience, but sometimes we don't connect. Like I'm talking to friends who are really into the game and we're talking about like, what do you think is going to happen between, this team's injuries and this team, the matchup between their defense and the offense, or the coaching matchup, or hey, like this team plays better indoors, etc. And then gambling points, within that. And there's other people who are just like, I want this team or I want that team, but they don't really care about the game strategy and stuff. They just are like, oh, I'm tired of the Chiefs, or my family's from Philadelphia, or something like they like want the Chiefs or don't want the Chiefs because of Taylor Swift, or etc. Like there's a lot of different versions of that within this discussion. It's funny because I don't connect on any of those points really, but I understand them. So it's fun to still have those talks because I can talk to a random person at work, a coworker or a client of mine, or somebody that I'm working with in music or doing a podcast with, and we can have that talk, which is pretty cool because you can't do that with a lot of other things these days. A lot of my guests, which I've been very fortunate in the early, run of this show so far to have awesome guests. All of them have been great, and I can't wait to have more. And of course, some repeats. But we talk about a lot of different things. Some people, it's music oriented, and then it goes in different directions within music. Some people, it's kind of more of like sports oriented or different business things within that. And I'm into a lot of stuff, so that's why I wanted to do this show. But going back to the football thing, it's funny how you can have those talks and somebody's going to ask me, and this is definitely going to happen to me next week. Hey, did you see that one commercial? And I'm going to be like, no, I didn't. But then I'm going to be like, hey, did you see that one run that like Saquon Barkley had? And people are going to be like, no, I didn't. That's okay both ways. Like there's no right or wrong answer there. That's the thing. And that's why I think this monoculture discussion that I wanted to have is important, because I'm not going to dive into like anything political here because that's not what the show is about. But I think that's where a lot of discourse comes from in the political climate. It's not about like what you believe in or what you like or dislike. It's that people try to have these discussions because they go, oh, I'm talking to this other person, or maybe I'm posting online to these other people. That's another big problem. because it's not a discussion. But I see things this way. And if you don't see things this way, we're talking about the same thing, but we're arguing. And people don't really realize, like, hey, you're experiencing the same thing, but you're not really having the same experience within the topic. I think that's a big problem. And that's why people need to have talks and discuss things and be able to agree to disagree. And I'm coming from this at a sports point of view and, halftime show and commercials. Like, now, granted, again, I have taken some time to come to this because I used to get mad, like not mad, but like I used to get kind of frustrated because I'd be trying to talk about football and I'm like, I don't care about this commercial or whatever. But then I realized I'm like, hey, like somebody else is going to watch this game that they might have not watched otherwise. And they're going to really enjoy so-and-so on the halftime performance or, hey, this commercial, but then they might get a glance at football and that could lead them to really enjoying that game. And vice versa, like I might be watching the game or somebody's in the sports and go, I don't really like this musical artist because I don't know who they are, or maybe what I've heard from them wasn't my thing. And then I could watch a halftime show and be like, oh man, that was really great. I'm going to check them out. And then it could lead me to finding other artists or whatever the case may be. And I think that's kind of the perspective that I try to have going forward is I'm there for the game, but I'm going to be open-minded because there could be other great things to discover within this game. I don't think that a lot of people think that way, and that's okay. I just think that that's the climate of our culture and where they want people to be. It's like everything is so self-serving. Like I said, Spotify, they give you your list based on what you listen to. Your phone gives you these ads, your internet gives you these ads based on what you're looking up, what you like. And I'm not going to get into this Big Brother thing or whatever. I mean, that's just promotion. I mean, they want to advertise to the right markets. That goes back way back in the day. I mean, you watch certain television programs, they're going to advertise to the demographic that show is targeted at. If you're watching, for example, like professional wrestling and their main demo is 18 to 35 or 18 to 50 or whatever men, they're going to advertise products that are aimed at that demographic. That doesn't mean that women or people outside of that age range aren't watching. It just means that like they're targeting this show at these people, so that's who the ads are going to be targeted at, right? That's like advertising 101. Well, that's everything now. Now I selfishly cannot sit through ads when I'm watching like a streaming service. To me, the best thing about this goes back to like TiVo and DVR. The best thing about not watching live TV is that I don't have to sit through a commercial. I can pause when I want, and I can just, if you're having like a day where you're going to binge watch something or you just want to watch one movie and you don't want to have to deal with that, like I'm paying the extra money for no ads. I just don't care. Now, some people, the money, the saving, the, $5 or $10 extra a month, whatever it might be, is more important than the time that they have ads. And that's okay. Everybody's got their own point of view and that's fine. I just personally can't sit through that. But I would still argue, the same thing with YouTube. I pay for YouTube, so I don't have ads because I use it so much just to listen to podcasts and stuff or videos that are kind of set up like podcasts. That's just me. I've been shit on for that. People have like told me a lot of nasty things and I'm like, hey, like that's just me, man. I'm not going to tell you to pay for it. I don't work for them. I'm not trying to make them money. I mean, I'm not against them making money, but I'm just saying like that's the whole vibe there. So I think, for me, I already could tell I don't like sitting through ads, even if they're targeted at me. I'm sure that I've bid on some of them. You get Instagram and Facebook ads and whatever. But at the end of the day, they're trying to sell you a product. So everything coming back to being self-serving is like you have these streaming services with music, with movies, with your news feed, with your social media feed. It all comes down to that. And it's so personalized to you that when people try to have these shared experiences, it's almost like they don't know how anymore. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people that still do. Not everybody's so connected to the internet like that. But young people don't know better because they were born into this. Like, I'm lucky enough to be in that really weird, slim kind of group of people that are like millennials, but kind of the tail end of it, where I'm young enough to remember like not having cell phones or internet. And then I'm young enough to remember having like dial-up internet where you couldn't be on the phone and it was no social media. It was just like websites and whatever. And then I'm also able to be like, yeah, like I know how to use my iPhone and I use it for, I have lots of different technology because it goes along with the music and the podcasting, but like, I love the technology. It's great. Like I don't want to sit there and listen to a cassette tape and have to take a pencil and wind it. I want to be able to go on Spotify and find any album I want. I have tons of vinyl sitting in here and record players and all kind of shit. I have tapes. I mean, my band has put out tapes and CDs, and hopefully we'll do vinyl. But it's more of a cliche, or not cliche, but like a more of a, I guess, niche thing. But it's more of like the, I guess it is a cliche with like hardcore and punk. It's like you got to put out the physical media, and I love it. I have our CDs framed and stuff, but again, like I love being able to just go on Spotify and find an album. Not everything that I like is on there. I mean, almost everything you could think of, but there's stuff I still have to put on my phone, either like local bands that have never put up their stuff, or older bands that never got that big, or maybe friends bands where they don't have all of it up there, whatever it is. My own stuff that I don't have up there for good reason, probably because I don't want to share it, or nothing that I don't want to share, just like old bands that I'm not doing anymore. But it's like, I can do that and have it on my phone, but still understand like, hey, like it's really cool when you can share music with people and have a shared experience and listen to it together and talk about it. And I think that's also a big cultural difference in music. Like, obviously, like my favorite band is Blink. You probably know that if you know me. And when I went to see Blink, like the last 2 times, so I went 2 nights in a row the last time I saw them, because they're in Chicago 2 nights. And they sold out the United Center 2 nights in a row. It was like 20,000 plus. I mean, I know that you can get 22,000 in there for some stuff, depending on the setup. I don't know the exact number, but I'm going to say 20,000 plus for each night. And I mean, everybody knew every song. I mean, and they were playing not like the deepest deep cuts, but they were playing non-singles. They have a ton of huge hits too. And that goes down, it trickles down. So like then I go see a band like New Found Glory. One time I went to see them 3 nights in a row. Now this is Bottom Lounge, so I don't know, 700 cap. They were sold out, 20th anniversary show. Each night they played 2 separate albums in full. And I think I counted it was 75 different songs, 6 albums. And again, everybody knew every word. People were hanging from the freaking ceiling. It was great. It was crazy. And then that trickles down to the club shows that are a little smaller, or even bigger. House of Blues, Newfound will play that. And then stuff my band does, and we'll play to, very small. In the past, we've played to very small crowds, but like the ones that are passionate and into the music, it's awesome. And you really have to like dive into that music. Now, generally speaking, there are other people that you might know from different parts of life who they're just going to be like, yeah, like I don't know any of that. But like they might know some of the top 40 stuff. And I'm like, I really don't know a lot of that. And I feel disconnected with them being like a big music person. It's very strange. So why I think the Super Bowl is important is it is probably one of the last major like monoculture shared experience events in our country that is not some kind of like political discourse. And now people bring that into it. They always will. That's okay. I ignore that. But like, again, I explained why I think these things are earlier. I'm not going to keep talking about that. But I think it's one of those weird things where when you share an experience with people, even though you don't always connect on all points, it is special because you can have that discussion. I can't always share stuff with other people. I can tell them about what I've experienced, and they can reciprocate their feelings or their opinions and then share something they experience. And that's a great conversation as well. That's a lot of what we do on my podcast, and I love that. But we don't have a ton of shared experiences. A lot of times when we do, it's either me talking to somebody on this show where we both are interested in the same thing. So we both have similar experiences within that topic, be it like sports or music or whatever. Or it'll be like, yeah, we're the same age, so we both remember this. And that could be a great experience. Like, the 2002 or 3, like VMAs, whatever one. I was talking to somebody about this, so I popped in my head about Jimmy Fallon hosting and coming down dressed like Robin, like Eminem in the video, and then doing Nelly with the Band-Aid on his face. Like, I was talking to somebody about the VMAs, and it was funny. Shared experience, right? Or it could be something tragic and horrible like 9/11, but that was something everybody remembers, that was around then. I mean, nobody, if you were my age or older, you remember it. So those are just some kind of things I wanted to talk about, like why I think the Super Bowl is important. I think we should keep it positive. I'm going to get into some other topics within that about the celebrity thing, about the teams, but just something I wanted to kind of touch on. I'm going to take a sip of water. We're going to dive into some football. Remember to hydrate this weekend, please. So the hatred part of it. Now, this is kind of nasty. A lot of people, football fans and people who are like kind of football fans, but maybe not really, you will hear them say that they quote unquote hate the Chiefs. Now, I feel hate is a very strong word. I know it gets thrown around a lot, but I don't really hate any team. I mean, there are teams that I very much root against because they're division rivals with the Steelers. But like someone like the Baltimore Ravens, as much as I want them to lose, I have great respect for them. They're a great organization. They're a very talented team. No, like I don't like them, but that doesn't mean that I can't recognize how good they are. And I don't think people realize, like, yes, the NFL has a bit of favoritism towards teams like the Chiefs, but it's only because they became so great on their own that they want them to keep being great because it generates revenue, it generates views, because there's a lot of people whom you might call bandwagon fans or who are just going to tune in to see how great they are. And then there's a lot of hate watchers. And, you know, you can be a hater that your eyes are on the game and that's going to generate money. It's going to generate views. I think the thing with the Chiefs, and as a Steelers fan, I went through this with the Patriots for 2 decades of my life. People have to realize they're very disciplined in 2 regards. Number 1, they don't turn the ball over. Number 2, they don't commit penalties. Pre-snap and post-snap, and those are the ones you can control. Now, we're going to dive into football in a minute, but I just wanted to touch on this. A lot of people also are either pro or anti-Kansas City because of this Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce thing. Now, again, I kind of told you guys, I don't care one way or the other about Taylor Swift. Like, I have no hate for her or dislike. I also am not really a Swiftie. Like, my opinion on her music is going to stay with me unless you want to ask me about it. I could break down certain songs or albums. You know, that's what I love, is breaking down music. But I'm not here to piss anybody off or to encourage anybody to be a hater because, again, it's not really my vibe, but like I'm not a hater. I understand people are tired of seeing her on TV all the time, but they're always going to show celebrities when they're at games. I mean, that's just part of it. Like, they want to show that to get people involved. And I'm sure there are a lot of people, especially young women, who never watched football or maybe didn't care. And I've seen this all over the internet about dads being so happy that girls want to watch football with their dad for the first time in their life because Taylor Swift got them into it, even if they're not a Chiefs fan. And I think that's great. Again, there's probably going to be people who are introduced to her music because of football, and that's the opposite way, and that's great too. You know, spread music, spread sports, spread love for cool things, spread love for art, spread love for great activities, and shared moments with your family and friends. That's what I think is great about it. I understand people are rooting against the Chiefs because of that, and I get it too. Like, it can be a bit exhausting of a storyline because I agree. I'm like, okay, like, we all know what it is. Like, it's nothing new. Got some on my shirt. There it goes. But it's like, I don't really care at the end of the day. It doesn't affect the football. Patrick Mahomes is smart. He knows how to tiptoe out of bounds right in time to get hit out of bounds and draw a flag. Hey, if you could draw flags, draw flags. Are there some calls that went against teams that played against the Chiefs that I thought were bad calls? Absolutely. And I could go on into the Bills game. There's plenty. However, they had their chances to win the game, so I'm not going to dive too deep into that. I'm not pretending like I'm some big Chiefs fan because I'm not. I could care less. Like, if they lose, it's not going to hurt my feelings. But it's like, I think people get a little out of hand with this refereeing stuff. Yes, again, there's favoritism here and there. But if somebody lights up Jalen Hurts on the other side, they're going to throw the flag too because they don't want him hurt either. Okay, that's just the way it goes. Now, he's a little different because he can run like crazy. Patrick Mahomes picks up running yards. I'm going to talk about that in the betting segment. But Hurts is a true runner of the football. He's amazing, and you know, he's going to take a few more hits because of it. So I understand the Chiefs' dislike, but at the same time, I think that a lot of it's unwarranted. It's just fatigue. I think it's fatigue. People want to see something new. They want parody. And a lot of us who, again, if you're like my age or older and you lived through the Chiefs, I'm sorry, if you lived through the Patriots dynasty, that was like ridiculous. I mean, what they accomplished was amazing. I'm not going to go into Spygate or Deflategate or all the other gates. I have opinions on that. That's for another podcast. I'm not going to give them hate here. I'm just going to say like what they did, and then Tom Brady joining another great team and winning another championship, which he was very much part of. I'm not saying it was just the other players. I mean, he was more a part of that than Peyton Manning was in his second Super Bowl win, just to be honest. It was amazing, but it's tiresome especially if your team, like my favorite team was very good from 2001 until 2000, probably 16. So the Patriots went a couple times after that. But in that span, the Steelers lost 3 separate AFC championships to the Patriots. And that's just heartbreaking. But it is what it is. So I understand the fatigue with the Chiefs. I understand why people want them to lose. I just think I watch so much football, and I've been watching football for so long as far as like how many, I don't think I've really missed any Steeler games since 2001. That was the first time they lost an AFC championship to the Patriots. I was only 9 years old. I turned 9. My birthday is usually week 3 of the NFL season, so I turned 9 week 3 that year. Cordell was our quarterback. It was my first Steelers jersey. I rebought it as an adult so I can have one I can wear now. I loved Cordell Stewart. Slash was the man. The Steelers went 13-3 that year. And they knocked off the Ravens in the playoffs. They had the bye, and then they knocked off the Ravens. And I remember that being a big deal because the Ravens were the Super Bowl champions the year prior. And then they couldn't beat the Patriots. Same thing happened Ben's rookie year in 2004. Went to the AFC Championship, lost them again. And then 2016, I think it was. That was the last one. And Steelers just, Lev Bell got hurt in the first drive. They couldn't do anything. They got crushed. That was the only one that was in New England, too. The other 2 were in Pittsburgh. So the reason I'm bringing this stuff up is I'm relating it to like the Chiefs fatigue. If you're a Bills fan or a Ravens fan or a Bengals fan, the Bengals did get past them, but they lost in the Super Bowl. So that's tough. I can understand, I can really, and if you're a division rival, a Chargers fan or, Raiders or Broncos, like I get it, but I just don't think that I have it in me to have much hate in my heart at all, especially for a football team at this point. Like it is what it is. It's frustrating. But I get more upset when I lose money on these games, and I'm going to get into that a little later. So, football-wise, I find it very hard to bet against the Chiefs. Now, I do think Philadelphia can win this game, but again, the Chiefs do 2 things great. They don't turn the ball over, which is very, very important, especially in the playoffs. And they also don't commit a lot of penalties. I believe they're one of the least penalized, if not the least penalized team in the league. But where it counts is pre and post snap. So now granted, the Chiefs do get away with some stuff pre-snap as far as my TV view goes. Maybe I just am not seeing it right. Maybe it's the camera angle, but the way that they line up, a lot of other teams get called for that, and they usually do early in the season. But again, I'm not an official. So if you're disciplined, you're lining up correctly on offense, and you are not taking things like false starts, etc., you are going to have a good time on offense. If you are not taking stupid post-snap, post-whistle, post-play penalties, whatever you want to call them, personal fouls, unnecessary roughness, unsportsmanlike conduct, things like that, you're going to do okay. During the play, you can't control too much. There's holding on every play. They're going to call what they're going to call, both sides of the ball. Pass interferences and things like that, both sides, they're going to call what they're going to call. It's very hard these days in the NFL. What is a catch? What isn't a catch? I'm still asking that question years after this Jesse James fiasco. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Same year, I believe the Eagles had a similar play in the Super Bowl that they won against the Patriots that was called a touchdown, but they, for some reason, didn't call it for Jesse James. Just, that's the way it goes. What's a catch? What's not? What's a football move? I have my opinion on what it is, but the refereeing teams are different. Some of them, there's groups. There's 4 referees in these different groups. And I think there's 16 groups. Some of them are known. You can look them up. They call more penalties than others. Some are much more willing to, as they say, let them play. So I didn't do too much homework on the officials for this game yet. But the thing is, I just know that the Chiefs don't take a lot of penalties. Now, the Eagles are a pretty disciplined team too, but the Chiefs' bread and butter is playing clean football and winning close games. Philadelphia, on the other hand, probably has the most talented roster in the league. Defensively, they're fantastic. The Chiefs are very good on defense too, and they have Andy Reid. But the Eagles' defense this year is unbelievable. They're great in the trenches, O-line, D-line, both sides of the ball. And the thing, you can say what you want about Jalen Hurts. I think he's a great quarterback. He can throw the ball. He's obviously a great runner. But a lot of people have hate for the running quarterbacks, so they say, they can't throw. Here's the thing. Jalen Hurts can throw, but he also has some things, too, that you need to think about when you say things like that. He has a great O-line. Now, we had to check on their health, but that's something we'll get to in a little bit. He has 2 amazing wide receivers. He has a great tight end, and he has probably the best running back that I've probably ever watched in Saquon Barkley. Plus, their depth chart is good. Guys like Gainwell and but I mean, look, Smith and Brown, amazing wideouts. You got Dallas Goedert, you got Saquon, and that O-line is great. Now, we're gonna have to check on the health, not just injury-wise. There was a rumor that some guys on the Eagles had the flu. I don't put too much stock into that. Now, they said that about the Steelers in the playoffs, but I think they just outright lost. I don't think anybody was sick. And if they were, that wasn't the reason they lost. So again, sometimes those tidbits come out in the media, and it's just to kind of psych people out. It's like the other team out. It's like Vegas out, whatever. The bettors, me. I think they'll be okay. Game plan-wise, the Chiefs are a good defense, but again, they're going to be able to run the ball. They're not going to be able to stop Barkley all day. And the thing about Barkley that's really interesting is he can catch the ball really well. I actually, when I get to the betting portion, I'm going to talk about that. But for this, I just want to say I think it's a very, very good matchup. I think this is a better matchup than 2 years ago. People will say, oh, the Chiefs' offense was better then. You could say that, but, having Hollywood Brown back, having D-Hop in the lineup, and obviously they have Juju, who Juju's not the best receiver, but he's experienced. He won a Super Bowl with them 2 years ago. He's been around the block. And if he's your 3, you're doing okay. But they also have Worthy, who's so fast. They have a couple of great backs. Mahomes can run the ball. He's probably going to have at least 25 rushing yards in this game. That's what I would bet. But maybe 22, 23 at least. But that's only because he does it when he has to. It's not much by design. Obviously, they have tight ends. Travis Kelce is one of the best tight ends the league has seen in a long time. I wouldn't say he's better than Gronk, and there's a couple other guys I put up there, but, he's awesome. But then they have the guys like Noah Gray who are great too. So they have depth there. I just think that if the Chiefs play clean on offense, they're going to still have to score. The Eagles' defense is tough. They're going to have to, I want to say 25 points is kind of what they're going to need. This is a close one, I think, a 3-point game. The last 3 Super Bowls have been 3-point games, including the Chiefs beating the Eagles late. I know that one was a little controversial. That was the final, though, 3-point game. And they also won by 3 in overtime against San Francisco last year. The year before those two was the Rams beat the Bengals by 3. That was a close game at the end. Aaron Donald, Pitt guy, closing it out. Hail to Pitt. But before that, there were some blowouts. I mean, the 49ers got their ass... the Chiefs got their ass handed to them by the Buccaneers because they had no O-line. And the Buccaneers that year were too good. The Chiefs pretty much kicked the shit out of the 49ers in 2020, but that was mostly because... the 49ers didn't play a very good game. I know their quarterback situation was a little skeptical. People, we'll talk about Garoppolo, whatever, but the Chiefs were clearly a better team. This is not the case now. This I think, I want to see, we're going to take a look at the live spread. It was 1.5 the last time I checked. A lot of money is coming in on Philadelphia, and this is another reason why I want to do this podcast a little later. Money moves lines. And again, I'm going to shift into the betting segment here because I'm not trying to get too much into strategy because I don't think a lot of people want to get too nerdy about it on this podcast since it's not a dedicated sports podcast. Okay, Super Bowl. So right now, it's Chiefs minus 1.5. I am not betting that line one way or the other. If you want to commit to money line, if you think a team's going to win, fine. I think that it's going to be a 3-point game, 4-point game. To be safe, maybe 4.5 points is where I would land. And that's one of the bets I'll talk about. Now, I think that the Eagles can win this game. I'd like to see them win this game. I'm going to rock my TO jersey. Got my ECW hat. If you know, you know. Philadelphia, let's go. But it's really hard for me to bet against the Chiefs. They're so great in late games and close games. Patrick Mahomes is so hard to bet against. Andy Reid is so hard to bet against. And especially, playing the Eagles. I know the storyline the first time they played the Eagles was Andy Reid's playing his own old team, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's as much of a storyline this time around, but it's more or less like, all right, Sirianni's got to get it done. He's got Barkley. I know that the Chiefs would be the first team to ever three-peat, but I really think that the pressure is more on Philadelphia for two reasons. Number one, Sirianni hasn't won a Super Bowl yet, and I think that they want to get it done. And they have Saquon Barkley, who was so great this year, historical year, unbelievable. And they have such a great team, both sides of the ball, special teams as well, which I didn't talk about much, but they got to make some kicks. There's some teams missing some kicks out there. That's the one thing that I'm not used to being a Steeler fan is, even though our team is not that good, Chris Boswell is money. Harry has been, thank God. So that could be a big part of this game. You can't miss kicks. Don't underestimate the Eagles. They will go for it on fourth down a lot, and they will convert. But when it's time to make a field goal, you got to make a field goal. When you kick an extra point, you got to make it. I just think that the pressure is on them, and a big reason for that too is the public is so invested with the Eagles. Some of them with their brains, some of them with their hearts, but their money is pouring in on Philadelphia. Where are we at right now with that? This is going to give me the... I'm looking for that right now because sometimes it'll tell me, but this is live too. The last time I checked, though, public was big time on Philadelphia. I understand why. So there's a little bit of pressure there. There is pressure on the Chiefs too, trying to three-peat, but it almost feels like, hey, we've won 3 Super Bowls, we've been to 4 in the last 5 years, however many AFC championships, whatever it is. Like, to them, it's almost like, it's business as usual, which is crazy, but it's what it is. So the other thing too is they had the first round bye. So back in the day, before not even back in the day, a few years ago, really, the top 2 teams would get the bye in each conference. Now it's only the one because of the extended playoff format. So the Eagles had to play the last couple of weeks. They had to play in the championship game, which they won, obviously. And that was a pretty good game. They ended up, pulling away with it, but it was a good matchup, division game. Everyone was excited about Washington. What was a really good game was them beating the Rams. That was a close one at the end. And then they beat Green Bay pretty handily. So, I don't know when their bye week was during the year. I can't remember. Again, this is stuff I'm going to look up before I actually lock in my bets, but this is just kind of my preview. This is their 4th playoff game, plus whatever they play at the end of the year. The Chiefs had to play on Christmas, so they had this weird window of having a longer time off. Played their last game of the year where they sat everybody pretty much, then had a bye. So they're much more well rested. They made light work of the Texans, which should have been a closer game. Again, there was a couple of controversial calls in that game, but really, I don't think the Texans are ready. They're not there yet. And the Bills game was a bit different. That was a bit more challenging. I think that the Bills could have won that game. It was obviously very close. Now, in that game, I bet I had a bet that I might carry on into this game we're going to talk about that I won. But I think that the Chiefs have health and rest on their side, and the closer this game is, the longer it goes. That's going to play into it. So I think the Eagles are going to start out hot, but if I'm Philadelphia, I got to score as many points early as I can, every opportunity. Convert those 4th downs. Now, don't chase points like crazy. Don't go for 2 if it's unnecessary. Don't go for 4th and 6. I mean, they could probably convert it, but be smart. But let's convert. Let's put ourselves in, let's convert on 2nd down, on 1st down. Let's put ourselves into 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2. So that way, if you do get a 4th down, it's a convertible one. Take field goals if it's, 4th and 6 or whatever, and you're in field goal range. Make your field goals. Play good defense. And keep it a manageable game. Now, that doesn't mean shit really in the long run because we all know what happened to Atlanta being up 28-3 against the Patriots. So, again, running up the score doesn't always secure victory. But I just think that sustained drives, taking time off the clock is going to be helpful. The Chiefs can score in a hurry, and so can the Eagles. But the thing is, Saquon ripping off these 60-yard runs and scoring on the first or second play, that's great. You got to score. You're not going to say, no, I won't take that. But you don't want to leave too much clock for Patrick Mahomes to work with. You want to keep their defense out there as much as possible and rest yours as much as they can. So I think if the Eagles can do that, they'll be in good shape. But that's what I worry about is the clock and just fatigue. It's an indoor game. Nobody should be missing kicks unless you're taking 60-yarders. And even then, I mean, guys can make those these days. So the weather conditions, nothing to worry about. I don't know how guys play on that turf down in New Orleans, but, shouldn't be a problem. So I really have a hard time going money line for either team. If I had to pick money line, I'm going Chiefs. Even though my heart says Eagles, I just can't bet against them. However, and then we'll get into some betting stuff here. This is kind of what I'm looking at. So in that Buffalo game, I had the similar thoughts as I do on this one. Not like about how the Eagles are structured and the Bills are structured, but just about the Chiefs. So I believe the line was 1.5, just like this game, and I did not trust that. So I gave the Bills 4.5. I went down, I bought down on that, and I parlayed that, and I bought down on the total too. I don't remember what the total was, around 48. I bought down to over 43.5. 44 is your key number you want for the over. So I parlayed over 43.5 with Bills plus 4.5, and the Bills covered that, and they went over, and it was, I think, plus 174 were the odds. So, for example, if you bet $100 on that, you're going to get back your 100 plus 174, which would be 274. That's just a round number I'm giving out in case you wanted to bet on that. So if we do that in this Eagles and Chiefs game, just as of right now, these odds change, okay? So it depends, the closer to game time, money comes in and out, things change. But if we wanted to go Eagles plus 4.5, so that by itself is minus 221, which isn't great. But if we parlay that with over 43.5, that is going to give you plus 106 odds. So if you bet $100, you're going to win back 206. If you bet $1,000, you're going to win 2,060. No, 2012. Sorry, my math. But here's the thing. If you're not a big gambler and you're just doing it for the Super Bowl, don't bet more than you're willing to lose. Okay, be responsible, be smart. I'm not advising people to get into gambling if you're not into it. Now, if you're into it and you're listening to this, that's one of my plays. It's plus odds. Look, they're probably going to they could go very well over 50. It's indoors. I know a lot of people are going under in this game. I don't think that's the case. I think there's going to be points scored in this game. And I think 44 is kind of where you want to start around. Low end, okay? 43.5 over. That plus 4.5 is a cushion. Now, if you wanted to keep the plus 43.5 and give the Eagles plus, we'll say plus 3.5, give them a hook there, that gets you up to plus 116. It's not that much better odds. I would just go down the extra point. I don't like the 3. You're not going to get an even 3, but I don't like the 2.5 because it's such an easy thing to be tied and then somebody kick a field goal. Now, it could be the 1.5. I could be wrong, but as much as gambling is never safe, I play it safe. I want to get the best bet, and if you get plus odds on something like that, I feel pretty good about it. Now, a couple other things. Depending on what book you're using, there's going to be boosts. Of course, I like Saquon Barkley to score, probably twice as better, but Hurts as well. On the Chiefs side of things, Travis Kelce, these touchdown scores are hard to take. It's probably going to be somebody weird too. Maybe you'll get a Juju touchdown. I don't know. Maybe Mahomes will run one in. It's hard to tell on their side of the ball. The Eagles, too, have a lot of great guys who can score. But what I want to see is I can find a prop for specifically Saquon Barkley receiving touchdown. Now, this is what I think you're going to see. Early in the year, and we've seen it throughout the year, but early in the year, remember that Sao Paulo game against the Pack? And then a couple games into the season, Saquon was getting used in a lot of different ways, and he was catching balls and catch after yards, not always deep passes, but he was getting a lot of yards on them, yards after catch. He can catch, and we know he can run. And I would not be surprised if he has a reception for a touchdown because they will line him up like he's going to block. And once, that disguise is out there and he rolls out, there might not be anybody to stop him, especially near the goal line, if they're down there. So I want to find a prop. I'm going to look through some books. If you could find good odds on Saquon Barkley receiving touchdown specifically, I think that's a good play. Now, again, money line is hard for me to lean. And you know what? They're both minus odds. Nobody's got a great, actually, are the Eagles plus right now? No, Eagles are minus 105. Chiefs are minus 115. That's because of all the money coming in on the Eagles. 54%. Here's your bets. 54% of money line bets are on the Eagles. 53% on the spread. Chiefs minus 1.5. And total. So this has shifted since I last checked at 75% on the Chiefs. So money's been coming in on the Chiefs late, and it's probably because of shifted odds. Again, money's going to come in and out. It's going to even out a little bit closer to game time. We're getting close to the hour mark, so I'm gonna finish this up soon. I'm looking at these touchdown score odds right now. AJ Brown at plus 175 anytime's pretty good. I like Dallas Goedert plus 300 for Dallas Goedert. If you're gonna pick a touchdown score for the Eagles, it's not Saquon or not Jalen Hurts. I think Goedert's the play plus 300, and maybe his receiving yards. I'll see what his receiving prompts are. Again, I have to check this in real time because I have show notes, but like these change as money comes in. So yeah, if you get him receptions, I mean, you can get Dallas Goedert plus 6 receptions at 140, and it's a little high, but he could do that. I like his receiving yards, 52.5. So if you do plus 60, it's plus 116. Okay, Goddard's a guy I would keep looking at for the Eagles. I don't want to call him a safety valve or a safety blanket because he's not. He just gets used a lot in a lot of situations where he's really good. Chiefs wise, Travis Kelce's kind of an easy go-to. If you're gonna go not receptions but yards, Worthy's a really good look because he's so fast. He can catch. Not a lot of guys can catch him, and he can pick up yards in the open field. Juju, I might put some money on Juju plus 25 or 25 plus receiving yards plus 143. I like that. That might just be a fun one for me. The running backs are hard. I mean, like Pacheco's their guy, but him and Hunt have both been kind of underused. Mahomes is where I want the rushing yards. That's what I'm going to look at. So, again, those are just player props. But big time scheme, I'm thinking, what's the over set at right now, by the way? Again, I'm sorry, this is not a very fluid part of this podcast, but it's because I have to check where the odds are at. Okay, 48.5 is steep. Now, I will give you guys a little tidbit. Last year, it was, I believe, if I remember correctly, the over was 47.5 or 48.5. It was one or the other. And I found a book that had the same odds, a point lower, and I took that. So shop around if you have more than one book. I got that and the Chiefs money line and won pretty good. Shop around, find the best odds you can, go low. I would go, if you're going to, people love betting the over and I don't blame them, but get the best over you can, the best price on a lower over. And I'm going to give points. I want to say my final bets are Eagles plus, we're going to give the Eagles some points, plus 4.5 at most, plus, I don't think I could do the 1.5, plus 3.5, plus 3.5, plus 4.5. I'm staying there. I'm being safe as possible. And if you're going to go money line, I'm still hammering Kansas City. I'm rooting for the Eagles. This is no hate, but I have a hard time putting my wallet. I don't have a hard time betting on the Eagles at all. I have a hard time betting against the Chiefs. That's the problem. I would rather risk getting the points and then winning less and the Eagles winning outright than going against the Chiefs on a money line bet and then just getting crushed. And the same thing with the over. I don't trust that 49. It could definitely go over that, but I don't trust that 48.5. That's a lot of points for a Super Bowl. We've seen it, but again, and these are two great teams, but I'm just, with 2 weeks to game plan, Andy Reid, Sirianni, I mean, again, I'm thinking I want to stay in that 44 range. My final prediction is going to be probably Chiefs 25, Eagles 22. That gives you 47. So it covers the spread for the Chiefs, and it goes under. But again, this could be something like the Eagles winning 35-20. I mean, this is such a hard game to predict. So again, I'm trying to go low on the total, give the Eagles some points. Chiefs money line if you're going to go money line, but I don't know that I can go money line on either team. And again, look for guys like Dallas Goedert to have some yards and some receptions. Patrick Mahomes rushing yards, somewhere between 22 and 25 where you can get, good odds. Saquon's going to crush his yards, but he's not going to get good odds on those. So if you want to bet Saquon, you're going to have to go high. Same with Hurts. And I like Saquon receiving touchdown if you could find that. So that's pretty much where I'm at. So if you guys got to this point in the podcast, thank you for listening. This is my first solo monocast, whatever. I don't know. This won't be a regular thing. I'm going to have guests back next week. I love having guests, but occasionally I want to do an episode like this where I get to just kind of riff and just talk to whoever's listening. And I'm going to do some more special episodes too. So something I learned from this week, now granted, I was sick, so it was hard for me. I couldn't have done this podcast. I really was not in great shape. And thank God I'm feeling a lot better. I got some medicine and some different things to get me back in better shape. But here's the thing. I should have, in retrospect, had a guest for Wednesday and then done this podcast for tonight. So next time I do a special, that's probably what's going to happen. If the guest isn't part of the special, I'm going to do that, where I have a regular episode and a special. Or if it's an episode where I have a guest for the special, maybe I'll double down, or we'll move it. I have a couple of special episodes I plan on doing this year. We're going to do hopefully a 3:30 episode on March 30th. A 1-year anniversary will be late in the year, and a couple other things. So we'll get to that. So I have some fun guests planned. I've been talking to a lot of people, and if you're listening to this and you're somebody I talk to, I'm excited to have you on soon. A lot of it's scheduling conflicts between people's jobs and different hours and things of that nature. But I'm looking forward to doing more of these episodes. Thank you for listening. And I put this in the description, but if you want to follow me for anything 330 Club related or just my general life, my social media stuff, my Instagram is @MilSavich, just my name, MILSAVICH. My X/Twitter, if you're still on there, I am, because it's a free for all. You got to follow AB and all those fun accounts. Is @Mil182, so just @MIL182. I don't have a Blue Sky yet. Maybe I'll tap in. Again, not really loving social media lately. I just like it to connect with friends and share stuff like this. And you can find this on Spotify under the 330 Club podcast. You can check out my music on Spotify as well, and all my stuff on YouTube. And my YouTube is just my name, Milsavich. So thank you guys for checking out the show, for listening. I'm very appreciative of everybody who does. This is a new thing for me. It's just getting started, and I hope to keep doing it in good faith and in good health. And hopefully I can bring some entertainment and some thoughts and just some substance for everybody. I don't want this to just be like a bunch of BS where, I want to have fun, but I want it to be something that you can take away from it, maybe think, or maybe give me some feedback, because that's what this is all about. So thank you again for listening. I'm looking forward to the Super Bowl. Let me know what you guys are eating. I'm doing a hot dog bar. We're going to do hot dogs, Polishes. We'll get the vegan hot dogs for those who are not eating meat. And, we'll get liquored up a little bit. No meds that day. I got to make sure I'm clear and can have a few funny drinks, But if you're not drinking, that's cool too. We keep the Coke Zero on tap. We keep the water on tap. We got the Polar and the bubbly, the whole nine. Make sure you stay hydrated. If you're out and you're not home, make sure you got a ride. Uber is a much better option than getting too liquored up and trying to drive. So I hope everybody has a fun and safe, enjoyable Super Bowl weekend. This is one of my favorite weekends of the year. Shout out to everybody who loves football, and shout out to my brother Steve, his birthday this week. So wish him a happy 29th birthday. Thank you guys, and I will see you next week, which will be in a couple days. Peace out.